Rot in prison, Dad, while we take everything you ever built." Sienna smiled as she said it. That smile hurt more than the steel cuffs, snapping tight around my wrists. At 67 years old, I stood there watching my own child celebrate while I was dragged away in chains. Cameras exploded with flashes. Strangers stared and judged. And the city I had served my entire life turned its back on me. She believed I had no one left to call. She believed my story ended right there. But when the cell door slammed shut, the warden hesitated. His gaze dropped to the ring on my finger, and for the first time that day, someone looked uneasy, almost afraid. Before we continue, drop a quick comment for Justice After Dark. Where are you watching from right now, and what time is it there? Judge Leonard Shaw had just sentenced me to 5 years in federal prison for insurance fraud and bribery. Crimes I never committed. Crimes manufactured with forged paperwork and paid witnesses, performed so convincingly, the jury believed every word. Kendall sat in the front row, her arm linked through her husband, Blake. She leaned in and whispered something that made him laugh loud enough for me to hear from where I stood, shackled like a common criminal. The judge slammed his gavel, but it didn't matter anymore. The verdict was final. Kendall and Blake stood up. He wrapped an arm around her shoulders, and together they headed for the courtroom doors with the confidence of people who thought they'd won everything. Kendall turned back one last time. There was no sorrow in her eyes. No regret. Only satisfaction. "Everything you own is ours now, Dad," she said softly, just loud enough for me to hear. Then they walked out to celebrate. I knew exactly where they were going. Some overpriced steakhouse in downtown Denver, champagne flowing, already planning how to spend the $2.8 million I'd saved over 35 years of service. Money earned through endless double shifts. Money earned by running into burning buildings while everyone else ran out. A deputy yanked my arm, forcing me to my feet. At my age, every sudden movement felt like punishment. My knees screamed, but I stayed upright. I wouldn't give them the satisfaction of seeing me break. As they led me toward the side exit, whispers followed from the gallery. Some faces showed pity, others showed disgust. An older woman, an old friend of my late wife, Sarah, looked away when our eyes met. That shame weighed almost as much as the handcuffs. Then I looked down at my hand. The ring was still there. The National Firefighters Medal of Valor. Only 100 firefighters in the entire country wear it. Serial number 847. Caleb Callahan. Denver Fire Department. 35 years of service. 47 commendations. They had left it on me. Rings aren't considered dangerous. They had no idea what it represented, or which doors it could still open. Sarah died 6 years ago. Cancer took her. After that, I raised Kendall alone, working every shift I could to secure her future. Somewhere along the way, she stopped calling. When Blake Walsh entered her life smooth, charming, the distance between us turned into a canyon. I didn't trust him, but I stayed quiet, my checkbook always ready. I should have seen the warning signs. The urgent requests. The constant questions about my assets. The paperwork Blake called formalities. I trusted my daughter, and she used that trust to destroy me. The bailiff shoved me through the doors and out into the freezing winter air. Cameras burst with flashes. Reporters shouted questions. I didn't slow down. I kept moving toward the transport van. As it pulled away, Denver's skyline slowly disappeared. The city I had served. The lives I had saved. Now it believed I was guilty. They were wrong. Kendall was wrong. Blake was wrong. I had one chance left, one phone call. And I knew exactly who I needed to reach. I just had to survive long enough to make it. I would endure concrete walls, silence, and the slow passage of time, because the truth still existed beyond steel bars. And when that call finally connected, every lie would fall apart. Justice would return my name to the city I loved and served faithfully, always. Before we continue, drop a quick comment for Justice After Dark. Where are you watching from, and what time is it there right now? 20 minutes later, I sat in a windowless intake room inside the Denver County Detention Center. The air burned with cheap disinfectant, failing to cover decades of sweat and despair. Cream-colored walls peeled at the corners, revealing layers of abandoned renovations beneath. Plastic chairs were bolted into cracked linoleum floors. A scarred metal desk stood at the center, dented and worn by years of use. Above us, fluorescent lights flickered unpredictably, drilling a dull ache into my skull. Officer Curtis Flynn sat behind the desk, reviewing my file one page at a time. Early 40s, the kind of exhaustion that comes from work that demands everything and gives nothing back. His uniform was clean but tired, pressed carefully. A man who took pride in small details because the bigger rewards never came. I studied him in silence, skills sharpened by 35 years of reading people under pressure. His wristwatch was dead, the leather strap cracked and barely holding together. His boots were scuffed beyond saving, worn unevenly from years of standing. Beside my file lay a personal phone, an outdated model with a shattered screen he clearly couldn't afford to replace. Every few minutes, Flynn glanced at the wall clock. Not from boredom. He was counting time. A man measuring how long, until he could escape a life that probably felt no better than this room. I knew that look. I'd seen it on firefighters pulling triple shifts to pay rent and braces, on single fathers drowning in debt, on good men slowly crushed under responsibility. As Flynn read through my charges, my thoughts drifted back to how I ended up here. 8 months earlier, Blake started asking questions about my finances, the value of my house, retirement accounts, insurance policies. I assumed it was harmless curiosity, maybe advice. I answered honestly, like a fool. 6 months ago, he pitched an investment opportunity, real estate in Aurora. He needed my signature on partnership documents. Something didn't sit right. The language was vague. The terms favored him. I refused to sign without consulting my own lawyer. Blake's smile stiffened. His eyes went cold. That was the first crack in the mask. 4 months ago, Kendall stopped returning my calls. When I finally reached her, her voice sounded distant, rehearsed. Too busy, too stressed. Blake's voice lingered in the background, guiding her words. 2 months ago, federal agents knocked on my door at 6 in the morning. They arrested me for allegedly accepting $500,000 in insurance bribes. They accused me of fast-tracking corporate claims while delaying desperate families. In court, the evidence appeared airtight. Emails sent from my account. Bank deposits I couldn't explain. Contracts bearing my forged signature. Testimony from Neil Chapman, an accountant who swore he personally processed the bribes. Every piece was fake. But my assets were frozen. I couldn't afford a real defense. The public defender was overwhelmed. He tried, but Blake's lawyers buried him under layers of manufactured proof. And now here I was. Convicted. Sentenced. Awaiting transfer to federal prison for crimes I never committed. I needed to get out. I needed that phone call. But how could I convince Officer Flynn to bend protocol for a man sitting in shackles? Flynn closed the file. And then he looked straight at me. Tired but not heartless, he said evenly. Transport arrives in 30 minutes. You need water, restroom. I held his eyes. I need to make a phone call. He shook his head. Not here after intake, that's protocol. I leaned forward, the cuffs biting into my wrists. What if I told you I could change your life? My voice was low, steady. The same tone I once used when people needed to trust me, or die. Flynn froze. His hand stopped mid-motion. Suspicion clashed with hope, the look of a man being handed a rope while drowning. "What are you talking about?" he asked quietly. I didn't rush. "Officer Flynn, you're a man who works harder than most and earns far less than you deserve." His jaw tightened. "What the hell is this? Your watch stopped months ago, but you haven't replaced it because $50 is $50 you don't have. The soles of your boots are worn thin. Your phone screen is shattered. And you check that wall clock every 10 minutes like you're counting down to freedom." I paused. "You have a family, a sick wife, 3 kids who need more than $45,000 a year can give them." His jaw clenched harder. "How do you know that?" "I spent 35 years reading people in burning buildings, knowing who would panic, who would stay calm, who would run toward fire and who would run away. I recognize desperation, and I recognize opportunity." He swallowed. "What do you want?" "1 phone call, 5 minutes. "Can't do it," he said. "Regulations." "Regulations say you'll work this job another 40 years and retire with a pension that won't cover your wife's medical bills." I leaned forward again, chains rattling. "Or you give me 5 minutes and you get a house. 4 bedrooms, safe neighborhood, good schools, no mortgage, paid in full." Flynn stared at me like I'd lost my mind. "You're crazy." "My name is Caleb Callahan, retired fire chief, full pension, $2.8 million in assets. My daughter and her husband framed me to steal every dollar. The person I need to call can prove it." I met his eyes. "When I'm free, I keep my word. A house for your family." "Everyone claims they're innocent," he said. "Most of them don't have this." I lifted my cuffed hands, letting the ring catch the light. "National Firefighters Medal of Valor. Only 100 exist. See the serial number, look it up. Caleb Callahan, Denver Fire Department, 35 years of service, 47 commendations, not a single disciplinary mark." Flynn leaned closer, studying the engraving. 100 bravest, 47, Caleb Callahan. "Why should I risk my job for a stranger?" he asked. "Because you've already thought about breaking the law," I said quietly. "Taking a bribe, cutting a corner, doing something worse. You're that desperate." My voice softened. "I'm offering a legal way out. 5 minutes. If I'm lying, you lose nothing. If I'm telling the truth, your family's future changes forever." Silence filled the room. Flynn looked at the ring. Then at me. Then at the cracked phone on his desk. "My daughter Lily is 14, he said softly. "Straight A student, wants to be a doctor. We live in a 2-bedroom place where we hear gunshots every week. My wife's insulin costs $800 a month. My son sleeps on the couch. I work double shifts just to stay afloat." I nodded once. "Then help me so I can help you." Flynn closed his eyes, fighting the decision. When he opened them, he'd chosen. He picked up his personal phone and slowly slid it across the desk. 5 minutes, he said. "If this is a con, I'll make sure you never see daylight again." I nodded. "Thank you, Officer Flynn. You just changed everything." I lifted the phone with both cuffed hands as the screen lit up. Flynn stepped back, hand hovering near his holster, eyes fixed on me. I dialed a sequence I'd memorized 20 years ago. A number I prayed still worked. The number of the only person powerful enough to undo all of this. The phone rang once. Twice. Then a voice I hadn't heard in 6 months came through. "Governor Richmond speaking." I took a deep breath. "Kathleen, it's Caleb Callahan." Silence. Then Caleb. "My God, where have you been? I tried calling a few months ago, but your number was disconnected." I'm in a processing room at a detention center, I said. I've been arrested, convicted, and sentenced to 5 years in federal prison for crimes I didn't commit. What? Her voice sharpened immediately, threaded with anger. That's impossible, Caleb. What the hell is going on? My daughter and her husband fabricated evidence, fake emails, forged bank records, paid testimony from a corrupt accountant. They convinced a jury I was taking bribes from insurance companies. I'm scheduled for transport to federal prison in. I glanced at Flynn. He held up 3 fingers. 25 minutes. That's insane, she said. You're one of the most honest people I've ever known. Caleb, you saved my life. You saved dozens of others. 20 years ago, she continued, the Grand Vista Hotel fire in downtown Denver. I was off duty, attending a firefighter charity gala on the 12th floor when the alarm sounded, I said. The fire started in the kitchen from a gas line explosion. Flames spread fast, crawling through the ventilation shafts. I didn't run, I continued. I stayed, floor to floor, breaking down doors, pulling people from smoke-filled rooms. I found you unconscious in a 9th floor hallway. I carried you down 4 flights of stairs through smoke so thick I couldn't see my own hands. By the time other firefighters arrived, I had evacuated 50 people. I suffered 2nd-degree burns on my arms and smoke inhalation so severe I spent a week in the hospital. You visited me every single day during my recovery, I said quietly. You never forgot what I did. I remember, she said softly, and now it's time I repay that. I'm calling in that debt, I said. Kathleen, you don't owe me anything. I owe you everything. Tell me what you need. I need you to believe me when I say I'm innocent, I said. I need you to use your authority to review this case, and I need it done before they move me somewhere I can't reach anyone. Consider it done, she said. Her voice went cold, the tone of a governor hardened by 2 decades of Colorado politics. Give me the case number, the judge's name, everything. My legal team will have it handled within the hour. And Caleb, you're not going anywhere. I'm issuing an immediate order to halt your transport. I read her all the information. Throughout the conversation, Flynn stood watching, his eyes widening with each sentence. When I hung up, I carefully set the phone down and looked at Flynn. Who the hell are you? He whispered. Someone they never should have touched, I said simply. Flynn stared at me, a mixture of awe and fear in his eyes. He realized he had just helped a man with direct access to the governor's office. Officer Flynn, I said, you might want to start looking at houses in Aurora, excellent schools, very safe neighborhoods. He opened his mouth to respond, but no words came out. 2 hours after that call, everything began to shift. I was still sitting in the same processing room when Officer Flynn received a call from his supervisor. The color drained from his face as he listened. His posture stiffened. When the call ended, he stared at his phone for a long moment, then slowly looked up at me. What the hell did you do, Callahan? He asked. I just got a direct order from a federal judge to stop your transport. A federal judge, I said, stunned. Before I could say anything else, the door opened. A man in his 50s stepped inside, wearing a tailored suit that probably cost more than Flynn made in a month. He moved with calm authority, the kind that comes from winning high-stakes battles for a living. Chief Callahan, he said, extending his hand. Samuel Briggs, Governor Richmond sent me. For the first time that day, the pressure crushing my chest eased, just slightly. Samuel turned to Flynn. Officer, we need this room, private. Flynn glanced between us, still in shock, then quietly stepped outside. Samuel took a seat across from me and opened his briefcase. Governor Richmond called me 90 minutes ago, he said. Told me to drop everything and get you out. So let me tell you what's happened while you've been sitting here. I listened carefully. Within 30 minutes of her call, my team started dismantling your case, he said. Chief, The evidence against you is garbage." He paused. "Professionally staged garbage, but garbage." "What do you mean?" I asked. "The emails supposedly sent from your account," Samuel explained. "The metadata doesn't match. One message dated March 15th at 2:47 p.m., allegedly sent from your home computer." "I was at a memorial service in Colorado Springs that day," I said immediately. "Over 100 miles away. There were witnesses, photos, a sign-in sheet." "Exactly," Samuel said, sliding documents across the table. "We confirmed it." He continued. "And those bank statements showing deposits into your account, the routing numbers are fake. Those accounts don't exist at First National Bank. Whoever framed you got sloppy." I stared at the paperwork, technical analyses, draft motions, witness summaries. Things my public defender never had the time or resources to uncover. "Neil Chapman," I said, "the accountant who testified, he's the key." "We agree," Samuel nodded. "Detective Conrad Mills is already bringing him in. Financial crimes specialist, former military. Chapman will fold once he understands he's starring at federal prison." "How long before this is fixed?" I asked. "Normally," Samuel said, "months, appeals, hearings, bureaucracy." Then he closed the briefcase. "But with the governor involved, and fraud this obvious, days, maybe less." He stood. "I've practiced law for 25 years, he said. "I can tell guilt within minutes. You're not guilty. Someone set you up and they made mistakes." "My daughter," I said quietly. "She believes it." "Either she does," Samuel replied gently, "or she wants to. Sometimes people cling to lies because the truth threatens everything they've built." There was a knock. Flynn stepped back inside. "Officer Flynn," Samuel said, "the governor is aware you did the right thing. I'll handle the legal details of what Chief Callahan promised." Flynn looked at me, overwhelmed. "You're not going to prison," Samuel added. "By tomorrow, we'll know who's behind this, and when we do, they'll wish they'd never spoken your name." 24 hours later, Samuel returned. I was now in a private holding cell, protective custody. Samuel walked in and placed a thick file on the table. "Chapman broke," he said, "confessed to everything." I exhaled, relief colliding with rage. "Tell me," I said. "Detective Mills had him for 3 hours. He laid everything out, the forensic breakdown, the fake routing numbers, the corrupted metadata. By the time Mills finished, Chapman understood exactly what he was facing. 5 years federal time. So he broke." Samuel slid a transcript across the table. "Read this," he said. "You deserve to see it." I picked up the pages. "Blake Walsh contacted me 8 months ago. He paid me $15,000 up front and promised another $20,000 after conviction. I owed $60,000 in gambling debts. The people I owed weren't patient. They threatened to cripple me. Blake said Callahan was already guilty, that we were just making sure justice happened. I created fake bank accounts, fabricated emails to make it look like insurance bribes. $15,000, that's what my integrity was worth." I lowered the papers. My hands felt numb. "Did Kendall know?" I asked, already dreading the answer. "No," Samuel said quietly. "Blake told Chapman you and Kendall barely spoke anymore. He said she'd believe whatever he told her." He paused. "He used the distance between you as a weapon." It cut deep because it was true. After Sarah died, I buried myself in work. Kendall found Blake to fill the space I left behind. And Blake exploited every inch of it. "There's more," Samuel said, his voice turning darker. "Blake owes $200,000 to an illegal casino in Golden, Russian-connected. But this wasn't just about your money, Chief." "What do you mean?" I asked. Samuel opened another file. "The Griffin family fire, Lakewood, 5 years ago." My chest seized. Father, mother, 3 kids, barely escaped alive. Insurance payout, $300,000. I always suspected arson, I said slowly, but I could never prove it. Samuel nodded. Blake and Kendall bought their house 5 years ago. Cash purchase, $280,000, right after that payout. My blood turned cold. Blake set that fire, I whispered. Mills believes so, Samuel said. Chapman told us Blake got drunk one night and said the old man should be grateful if he knew what he really did. Said he'd kill you himself. I stood, unable to stay seated. 35 years of watching fire ruin lives, and this man lit one on purpose with a family inside. You reopened that case, Samuel continued. Unofficially after retirement, Blake found out. He looked at me hard. He knew if you proved arson, he'd go down for attempted murder, so he didn't just frame you for money. He framed you to silence you. I sat back down, the weight hitting all at once. He tried to murder 5 people. And when I got too close, he destroyed my life. Mills is reopening the Griffin case, Samuel said. Financials, phone records, everything. If Blake did it, we'll prove it. So what happens now? I asked. We can release you today, Samuel said. Arrest Blake and Kendall immediately. Then he hesitated. But Mills wants to wait. What? I snapped. Your daughter is hosting an auction tomorrow night. Fire Station 9, public event, cameras everywhere. My stomach twisted. She's auctioning your house, your savings, your entire life, in the building where you served for 30 years. Samuel's eyes hardened. Mills believes we should let them think they've won. Let Kendall condemn you in front of the city. Then he leaned in. And then walk in and expose everything, in front of everyone. I pictured it. Kendall standing where I'd saved lives, calling me a criminal, smiling. Letting her taste victory just before it collapsed. Part of me wanted it over immediately. But the firefighter in me knew the truth. Sometimes you let the flames peak. Before you put them out for good. Do it, I said. Let them enjoy their moment, I said. Then show them what real justice looks like. Samuel's lips curved into a sharp, knowing smile. Governor Richmond will be there. Captain Benson called yesterday. 15 firefighters, active and retired. They want to stand with you tomorrow night. 15. My brothers. My throat tightened. For the first time since the cuffs closed around my wrists, emotion nearly broke through. I thought I was alone, I said. You never were, Chief, Samuel replied softly. You just didn't realize who your real family was. He paused. Your daughter is about to learn how dangerous it is to underestimate the people who truly love you. Inside Fire Station 9, the lights burned bright, like a stage set for a performance. Cars lined the street for blocks. Guests streamed in through the doors. Faces I recognized. Insurance executives, investors, reporters from the Denver Post. Everyone dressed for spectacle. Samuel leaned close, ready. Not yet, I said. I want to hear her speak first. We stayed hidden in the shadows near the side entrance. Governor Richmond was already inside. So were the 15 firefighters, waiting quietly for the signal. The plan was simple. Let Kendall speak. Let her condemn me. Then let the truth walk in. Through the window, I saw her step toward the podium. Elegant black dress, hair pulled tight, calm, poised. The perfect image of a grieving, principled daughter. Blake stood near the entrance in a tailored suit, shaking hands, smiling like the place belonged to him. My son-in-law. The man I once welcomed into my home. The man who burned my life to the ground. Samuel listened through a discreet earpiece, murmuring what he heard. She's stepping up now. Kendall's voice echoed through the speakers. Good evening, thank you all for coming. Her tone trembled, controlled, rehearsed. As many of you know, my father, Caleb Callahan, was recently convicted of corruption and bribery. The words hit harder than any prison door. For 35 years, she continued, he served this station and this city. He was a hero to us. She paused. Or so we believed. Hearing that inside the building, where I'd spent most of my life, hurt more than prison ever could. The truth, Kendall said, is that my father betrayed everything this uniform stands for. He accepted bribes. He prioritized the wealthy over families in need. He profited while others suffered. Samuel glanced at me, you holding up? I nodded, fists clenched so tight my hands ached. As his only daughter, Kendall continued, I'm devastated, but I believe in transparency. My father's assets are tainted. She took a breath. Tonight, we are auctioning them. Every dollar will go to victims of insurance fraud and to the firefighter charity fund, to restore honor to a badge he tarnished. Polite applause rippled through the room. Blake stepped beside her, resting a hand on her shoulder. My wife has shown incredible strength, he said smoothly. Caleb manipulated her for years. I stared through the glass, listening in silence. They had no idea. Not yet. Tonight we end that lie, I said. Samuel leaned in and spoke softly. Now it's time. The station doors flew open. Cold night air rushed inside as the room turned instinctively toward the entrance. Through the glass, Governor Kathleen Richmond stepped in wearing a gray coat, her expression carved from stone. Behind her marched 15 firefighters in full dress uniform, medals catching the light. Captain Roy Benson was there, 68 years old, leaning on a cane. Beside him stood firefighter Max Palmer, broad-shouldered, silent, steady. Samuel whispered, the room just froze. Kendall's face twisted in confusion. Blake's confident smile vanished. Kathleen didn't approach the podium. She stopped at the center of the room. Miss Callahan, she said, her voice carrying easily. Before you sell your father's life to the highest bidder, these people deserve the truth. She gestured behind her. Captain Benson stepped forward. November 14, 1998, warehouse fire. I was pinned under a steel beam. Caleb Callahan crawled through flames and pulled me out. He saved my life. Max Palmer followed. April 2003, 6-alarm apartment fire. Caleb went back inside 4 times, pulled out a mother and 3 children. Second-degree burns, never complained. One by one, firefighters spoke. Stories of rescues, of sacrifice, of lives pulled back from the edge. Samuel murmured, reporters are recording, cameras everywhere. Kendall's face drained of color. Blake leaned in, whispering urgently in her ear. I watched my daughter's composure fracture. The crowd shifted. Doubt rippled outward like a crack spreading through glass. Then Governor Richmond spoke again. 20 years ago, Caleb Callahan carried me out of a burning hotel, 4 flights of stairs, smoke so thick he couldn't see his own hands. When I thanked him, he said, I was just doing my job. Her voice hardened. This man was framed, and tonight justice begins. Samuel turned to me, ready. I took one last look at the station that had shaped my life. Let's go. The door opened. Light spilled across the floor. I stepped inside, and every whisper died. The silence was instant, heavy, absolute. Dozens of eyes locked onto me. I looked straight at my daughter. Kendall's face went white. Her hand flew to her mouth, trembling. No, she whispered, you were supposed to be in prison. I met her gaze calmly, the voice of a man who had walked through fire and survived. That's where you wanted me, wasn't it? I walked down the center aisle. Each step echoed. Blake grabbed Kendall's arm, pulling her away from the podium. His eyes darted toward the exits. I noticed. So did Detective Conrad Mills, who had just entered and quietly positioned himself in front of the door. Samuel Briggs followed behind me, briefcase in hand. I stopped 10 feet from the podium, close enough to see every detail of Kendall's face. The daughter I raised alone after Sarah died. The child I worked double shifts for. The woman who tried to sell my life to strangers. "Kendall," I said gently, "do you know what hurts the most?" She didn't answer, tears spilled real this time. "You never asked me, you never called, never visited. You never said, 'Dad, is this true?' You just believed him." I pointed at Blake. "You trusted a man known for 3 years over the father who raised you for 31. "I saw the evidence," she whispered. "The emails, the bank records." "Fabricated," Samuel Briggs said as he stepped forward. "Every email, every document, every record, all fake, created by your husband and an accountant named Neil Chapman." Blake's face twitched. "That's a lie," he shouted. Samuel opened his briefcase calmly. "Chapman confessed 2 days ago," he said. "He admitted the payments Blake made, the forged routing numbers, the altered metadata." He lifted the papers, sworn statements, forensic evidence. Every piece of the case against Caleb Callahan was fabricated. Cameras flashed. Reporters surged forward, shouting questions. Blake stepped back, sweat pouring down his face. "You can't prove." "Oh, we can prove plenty," Detective Mills said, stepping into the center. He flashed his badge. "We can prove fraud, perjury, witness tampering, and we can prove something else." He opened another file. "The Griffin family fire, Lakewood, 5 years ago. Remember that, Mr. Walsh?" Blake went pale. "Father, mother, 3 children," Mills continued. "Fire was ruled accidental. Insurance payout $300,000, but Chief Callahan didn't believe it. He kept investigating quietly." Mills glanced at me. "You were close, weren't you?" "Yes," I said, locking eyes with Blake. 1 week from submitting evidence when you had me arrested." Gasps rippled through the room. "That's insane," Blake screamed. "You bought that house 5 years ago," Mills said. "Cash payment, $280,000 immediately after the insurance payout, and you owe $200,000 to an illegal casino. This wasn't just about taking Caleb's money. It was about silencing him." Blake turned to run. 3 steps, then officers blocked him. "You're under arrest for conspiracy, perjury, arson, and attempted murder," Mills declared. Blake struggled as they cuffed him. Mills turned to Kendall. "Kendall Callahan, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit fraud." "No," she cried, breaking down. She turned to me. "Dad, I didn't know about the fire. Blake told me you were corrupt. He showed me proof. I thought I was doing the right thing." I looked at her and saw not my daughter, but the choice she had made. "You believed him without letting me defend myself," I said softly. "That's what I can't forgive." They cuffed her as she sobbed. I turned away, past the governor, past my brothers, past the noise. Outside, the cold air filled my lungs. I didn't look back. Sometimes, the hardest fire to escape is the one burning inside your own family. 6 months later, on a warm June morning, I stood on the stage at the Denver Fire Academy as the keynote speaker, looking down at 30 new recruits about to receive their badges. Once the evidence surfaced, everything moved fast. Samuel kept me informed. Blake showed no remorse. "Caleb," he said. "He denied everything, even with Chapman's confession, forensic proof, and the Griffin family testifying." The judge gave him 18 years federal time for conspiracy, fraud, perjury, and arson endangering lives. 18 years. Blake would be nearly 60 when released. Kendall's case was different. The judge recognized she had been manipulated. Samuel said she pleaded guilty, cooperated fully, and showed genuine remorse. Her sentence was reduced from 8 years to 5 with good behavior. 5 years. She would be 36 when free. Neil Chapman received 3 years, and lost his accounting license permanently. I was fully exonerated. Judge Leonard Shaw issued a formal apology in open court. The city of Denver offered compensation for my wrongful conviction. I donated most of it to the firefighter charity fund and the Griffin family. My house, my savings, and my reputation were fully restored. Officer Curtis Flynn received the deed to a 4-bedroom home in Aurora just as promised. He wept when he got the keys. His wife hugged me for a solid 5 minutes. Their daughter Lily began applying to medical schools. Flynn still visits monthly, bringing coffee and gratitude. 2 months after sentencing, I went to see Kendall at the Federal Correctional Institution in Inglewood. She looked smaller in her prison uniform, hair pulled back, no makeup. "Thank you for coming," she said. "I know what I did destroyed our family," she continued through tears. "I believed Blake. I didn't question it at all." "Why?" I asked. "Why was it so easy to believe I was corrupt?" "Because I didn't know you anymore," she admitted. "After Mom died, you buried yourself in work. I felt second to strangers. When Blake said you were hiding money, it made sense. It meant you were selfish, not that you cared." The words cut deep. "I worked so you'd have a future," I said quietly. "I know that now. I'm truly sorry," she replied. We sat in silence for a long moment. "I forgive you," I said finally, "but I can't forget yet. Maybe when you're free we can try again. For now I need distance." She nodded. "I'll wait," she said. At the door I turned back. "Your mother would want you to have a second chance. So do I." Now, standing before the new recruits, I felt something close to hope. Governor Richmond sat in the front row, with Captain Benson and Max Palmer beside her. In the third row, Officer Flynn sat with his family. His 16-year-old son, Marcus, was graduating today, inspired to become a firefighter. I stepped to the microphone. "6 months ago, I thought my life was over," I began. "I was handcuffed in court, convicted of crimes I didn't commit, watching my own daughter celebrate my downfall." The cadets listened intently. I had learned something crucial. Family isn't always blood. Family is who runs into the flames with you. Family is who believes you when the world collapses. I raised my hand, letting the ring catch the sunlight. This ring honors 100 of America's bravest firefighters. But every one of you is brave, not just for facing fire, but for choosing service over self. Applause erupted. Afterward, Marcus shook my hand. "I want to be the kind of firefighter who keeps his word." "Then you already are," I said. As the sun set behind the academy, I felt a rare peace. Some fires destroy, others forge something stronger. Looking back on this true story, I realized God was protecting me even when I felt completely alone. This is one of those grandpa stories I never imagined I'd live to tell, the kind where you lose everything and somehow discover what truly matters. If you're listening to this true story and thinking it could never happen to you, let me give you a warning. Don't make my mistakes. Don't let work consume your life until your family feels like strangers. Don't assume that blood automatically guarantees loyalty. And most importantly, don't wait until you're handcuffed in a holding cell to realize who really cares about you. The lesson God taught me through this nightmare is simple. Real family isn't defined by DNA. It's about who shows up when your world is burning. It's the officer willing to risk his job to help a stranger. It's 15 firefighters standing with you when your own daughter won't. It's a governor who remembers a debt 20 years old. These grandpa stories aren't just entertainment, they're warnings. This true story unfolded because I was too proud to ask for help, too busy to stay connected, and too trusting of the wrong people. God sends signs. I ignored mine until it was almost too late. So here's my question. Have you ever felt betrayed by someone you trusted completely? Have you learned the hard way who your real family is? Drop a comment below and share your story. Maybe it will help someone else avoid the mistakes I made. And if these grandpa stories have taught you anything, Justice After Dark wants you to remember. The most important lessons often come from those who have already walked through the fire. So here's my question. Have you ever felt betrayed by someone you trusted completely? Have you learned the hard way who your real family is? Drop a comment below and share your story. Maybe it will help someone else avoid the mistakes I made. If you enjoy this video, subscribe and like my channel. Thanks for watching Justice After Dark.